Estango. Hi, how are you? My name is Brittany Kessler. I'm a field specialist with the Johnson O'Malley program, and today I will be giving the parent training presentation for each one of the IEC programs. This is a brief overview of what we'll be going through. So we'll have the review of the federal guidelines, the bylaws, needs assessment. We'll go over the application, how to run an effective meeting, and program compliance. This is the Federal Register. The regulations for JOM can be found under this federal registration, the 25 CFR Part 273. These are just some key highlights that we will be going over for the rules concerning students in the IEC that are highlighted in yellow. The entire section is about 20 pages, and I ask that you take the time to read it when you can. If not, these are our focus points. So 273.110 is who is eligible to request contracts under the Johnson O'Malley Act. So we have that public school districts can, and also that they will establish an Indian Education Committee. Under 273.112, who is an eligible Indian student under the Johnson O'Malley Act, an Indian student from ages 3 years through grades 12. You must be at least 1/4 degree Indian blood of a federally recognized tribe, or an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe by descendancy or blood degree. So when a student uses the CDIB card, the degree must be 1/4 or 1/4. The blood degree on a CDIB card can be a combination of tribes. So if you have 1/8 Cherokee, 1/8 Creek, they are still eligible. JOM students, as long as you are able to show that. If the student uses a CDIB card or a tribal card, or they use their parent's CDIB or tribal card, the parent must be at least 1/2 degree and provide a copy of the certified birth certificate to prove this relationship. CDIB cards are not tribal citizenships cards. They're issued by the BIA office stating a person has a blood degree of a tribe. Tribal citizenship cards are issued by Tribes Enrollment Office. So a person can have a CDIB card and not be a member of a tribe. Also, state-only recognized tribes are not eligible. For example, the Western Cherokee Nation of Arkansas is a tribe and they're not federally recognized. So we'll go on to slide 3. So 273.113, how can the funds be used under the Johnson O'Malley Act? So some allowable expenses that you can pay for are the following. Under the CFR, we have remedial instruction, career, academic, and college readiness counseling, and cultural programs. Under 2, course-related, the academic and professional disciplines. 3 is important needs such as school supplies and items that enable recipients to participate in curricular and extracurricular programs, and purchase equipment to facilitate training for professional trade and intensify college preparation. Some examples of those are like tutoring, career, academic, college readiness counseling, cultural programs, vo-tech classes like culinary arts, computer science, and nursing, school supplies, curricular, extracurricular supplies, equipment for training, and college prep programs. Rule number 4, the Indian education community eligibility. Who determines the unique educational needs of eligible Indian students? So 273.115 is where we're at under Indian Education Committee. Only parents of Indian children can elect an Indian Education Committee from among themselves. Parents in the CFR are defined as natural parents, legal guardians, and adoptive parents. In cases of adoption, this includes non-Indian parents of an Indian student, but does not include Indian parents of a non-Indian student. Our office included those people having temporary custody. Most times this would be grandparents, but once the parent comes back into the picture, yeah, they are able to. Okay, so we'll go on to slide 4 here. 273-116, does an Indian Education Committee need to establish procedures and report to the BIE director? Each committee must file a copy of its organizational documents and bylaws with the BIE director, together with a list of its officers and members. Each IEC must establish their bylaws. The IEC school will not report directly to the BIE. They will report to the Muscogee Nation, who will then report to the BIE office. There's an annual report to the BIE of all 52 school districts, and we will submit that report to the BIE. IEC powers of and duties include, so 273-117, the powers and duties of Indian Education Committee. So these include participate fully in the planning, development, execution, and evaluation of programs. Just, being involved, recommend education programs, including text, materials, and teaching methods, approve budget preparation and executions, recommend criteria for employment, nominate qualified staff members from which the contractor would be required to select, evaluate staff performance and program results, and recommend appropriate action to contractors, approve and or disapprove all programs, have a copy of a contract or application, recommend cancellation or suspension of a contract. Some of these things will require signatures. We just ask that each one of the committee members be involved, know what your committee is doing, and look over everything. Ask questions. If you don't know, ask questions. We are also here to help. You can ask us, and just be involved. So we're going to move on to the next slide. 273-118, are there additional authorities an Indian Education Committee can exercise? So these other powers include participate in negotiations of all contracts, make annual needs assessments, have access to all reports, evaluations, surveys, and other program budget related documents. So you can ask your coordinator for those, or if you are unable to go to your coordinator, we will have those available. We request those from them. So request periodic reports and evaluations. You can do that. Establish grievance policy and procedures. We're asking all schools to adopt the MCN grievance policy that is in our handbook. And it'll be later on in the slides. You can also want to make yourself familiar with that. Meet regularly with staff, hold meetings open to the public, and any other power in agreement with the federal regulations. And now we are here. This is a sample bylaws that my coworker Billy Proctor has put together for everyone. I'm sorry that my little box may be in the way of some of the slides. If I will send out the PowerPoint along with this video in case you want to follow along. So you can amend your bylaws at any time. Such as like if you don't have enough officers present to have a meeting, you can lower your quorum. These are all suggestions. Design your bylaws to fit your committee. So each school is going to have bylaws that are tailored to their IEC committee. Also, keep your JOM bylaws separate from your Title VI bylaws. If the articles in your JOM bylaws can be the same for your Title VI bylaws, then just change the title for the two. So have a bylaws for your Title VI and a bylaws for your JOM, even if they look exactly the same. We have to have one that's specifically for JOM. So we're going to go on to Article 1 reference. This article is citing the CFR and authorizing you to create bylaws. This article can be optional. Article 2 is the name. You will need this article and use the title Indian Education Committee and not Parent Committee. We want to stay consistent with the wording in the CFR. Article 3 is purpose. You want to state the purpose of your IEC. Here are 3 examples. Section 1, Billy has made these examples for you guys: to enhance performance and promote higher achievement, to guarantee community awareness and promote programs, and to build a closer relationship between families and the school administration. Article 6 is membership. Article 4 is membership. This section 1 outlines those eligible and not eligible to be on the IEC. Non-eligible parents are those that pose a conflict of interest, such as school board members, superintendents, and tribal council representatives. Also, how many will make up your IEC and authorization to represent and speak on behalf of the IEC. Section 2 covers the powers and duties of the IEC taken from the CFR, which we already covered. Let's go on here. Section 5 or Article 5 meetings covers how many meetings to hold each year. 4 meetings a year is about the minimum. So you want to make sure that you're at least having 4 meetings with your IEC. So you want to have under meetings the date and time set for regular meetings, how many meetings will be advertised to the community, how to call a special meeting, definition of an informal meeting. This is a meeting when a quorum is not established, but discussions can be held on programs through non-formal action, although non-formal action is taken. How many IEC members make a quorum? The least number of members present to conduct a meeting. The article on meetings continue with who makes the agenda, like the JOM coordinator, chairperson, or both. The deadline of business items to be added to agenda and rule on posting of agenda to the public. Article 6 is officers. The IEC officers include the chairperson, the vice chairperson, secretary, and members at large. Section 1 is over the eligibility and non-eligibility. Those who can be elected are parents, guardians, non-legal guardians of Indian students, and also teachers and students. We just got clarification with the BIE for that. Those who cannot be elected because it would be considered a conflict of interest are school board members, superintendents, Muscogee Nation National Council representatives, and also spouses of those mentioned. Let's go on to, okay. Now we're on section 2, annual election. It is important to have your election procedure written in detail and make sure you follow it. Have the date of election, or have the date of the election, including the time and location, instructions on how to nominate, how votes will be cast and tallied. List what is not allowed, such as proxy voting and absentee balloting. Who will officiate the election? It can be the chairperson or a nonpartisan outside person. Also state if the election is voting for officer title or a vote to join the IEC membership and to let the IEC seat themselves as officers. List their responsibilities, which are to attend meetings, assist in events, and must vote on business items, except in cases of a conflict of interest. Examples are, say I was a member at large and the committee wanted to pay my aunt to cater an event, I would abstain from voting for that. And section 3 is term of office, 1 year or 2 year. The IEC will decide. If it's alternating terms, how many members will be elected in the even years and how many will be elected in the odd years. The term limits, yes or no. Section 4 is vacancies. The IEC can vote someone to fill a vacancy by majority vote. The new officer can only fill the time remaining. Section 4C refers to voting a new person to only fill the vacant IEC membership and not the officer's title, or the vacancy can remain until the next section. Section 5, removal of officers. Any officer may resign from the IEC in writing or verbally. Any officer may be removed for the following reasons: not showing up for a meeting, or child is no longer enrolled in district, or behavior that brings discredit to the program. Section 6, duties of the officers. The JOM coordinator and the IEC needs to decide how big a role each of the officers will take on, such as getting agenda ready, filing meetings with the county clerk office, volunteering for events, and school supplies like school supply distribution and cultural night. Specific duties for the chairperson is to vote only in case of a tie, prepare agenda and preside over meetings, sign all paperwork, such as you can have the chairperson vote on all business if you don't have enough parents on the committee, but generally a chairperson is to remain neutral. Let's go in here. A vice chairperson's duties shall be to assume the role of chairperson in their absence. Make sure everyone on the IEC is eligible, arrange for speakers and special programs, and any other duties that may be assigned. These are only suggestions. So secretary duties shall be to distribute the agenda, minutes, and any reports to the committee prior to each meeting. Keep minutes, provide minutes to the IEC and to others. Make sure all notices and meetings advertised are followed by the custodian of all documents. Be the custodian of all documents. Keep an up-to-date contact list of the committee and any other duties assigned. Members at large shall have full voting rights and assist in the design, execution, and evaluation of programs. Article 7 is the parliamentary procedures, and they shall be used in your meetings. Article 8 are amending the bylaws. Changes can be done at a regular or special meeting. Article 9 is grievance procedures. Grievance procedures should be the ones provided by the Muscogee Nation. They are complaints by parents, students, community members, and tribal representatives, and they shall be as follows. Section 1 is complaint must be in writing to the IEC. The IEC shall have 10 days to investigate. If the situation is not resolved, the IEC may request additional time. If the situation can be resolved by the IEC to the satisfaction of the complainant, the IEC can forward the complaint to the school's federal programs director or JOM coordinator. Section 2, the federal program director or JOM coordinator shall meet with IEC chairperson and a school official within 10 days. A grievance committee consisting of the MCN JOM office staff member, IEC member, and a school administrator will review the complaint and all documents with every effort to resolve the issue. The grievance committee shall have 10 days to give the complainant a written decision. If a decision is non-satisfactory with the complainant, the matter will be forwarded to the manager of the Muscogee Nation Johnson O'Malley office. Section 3, the decision of the MCN JOM manager shall be final. And Section 4, complaints from the IEC relating to the Muscogee Nation Johnson O'Malley program shall be as follows. The IEC chairperson shall submit written complaint to the Muscogee Nation Johnson O'Malley manager. If the complaint is because of direct action by the JOM manager, the complaint is submitted to the Secretary of Education and Training. Either the JOM manager or the Secretary of Education and Training will report the findings to the complainant within 30 working days. The findings of the JOM manager shall be final. In Section 5, the grievance against the JOM manager shall be as follows. A written complaint shall be submitted to the Secretary of Education and Training for review and action. Within 30 days, the Secretary of Education and Training will report findings to the complainant. The Secretary of Education and Training shall be final. Section 6, we have the grievances against the IEC, and they shall be as follows. The complainant shall submit written complaint to the Muscogee Nation JOM manager. The Secretary of Education and Training will have 30 days to report the findings to the complainant. If the situation impairs the school's ability to meet requirements of the program, the Muscogee Nation office reserves the right to intervene. If intervention does not lead to a resolution, the Muscogee Nation office reserves the right to disband the IEC upon approval of the Secretary of Education and Training. A new IEC shall be formed at a special meeting, and findings of the Secretary of Education and Training shall be final. And Article 10 is the ratification. The ratification of bylaws must be done annually with or without any changes with date and signatures. Please have an electronic copy on hand to make changes or print last page for signatures. We have to have this page in our office and signed. So you want to look over those annually with your committee and make sure they're in your minutes. Here we have the Johnson O'Malley Needs Assessment Survey. This is the blank survey and also the results. The needs assessment must be done every year, even though it may be the same results every year. The community members may not come to meetings, but this is how you get their input. Only JOM parents can complete a survey. If you want to use one survey for JOM and Title VI, just put a generic title on the survey, like in Indian Education Survey, but you must separate when tallying results. Some of the Title VI parents may not be JOM parents. On the bottom of the survey, you could add a box for Title VI parents only. You may do a paper survey or an electronic survey. When you tally results, rank in order, and please put the number of surveys returned. The IEC will then decide which programs to put on the application, basing decisions on if Title VI already addresses the need and what the budget will allow you to have. You cannot use JOM money for something that is not on the needs assessment. This is the application and or contract. The budget is based on the number of students at your school. Let me go through this real quick. So we have under the application, number one, that's your school district. And then we have the contact person, which is usually the coordinator. Sometimes it's administrators. We have under that is eligible student count. We'll send out a tentative award letter. This will have your student count and also your proposed budget on it. This is what you'll use. And the date submitted to the Muscogee Nation, you can leave that blank and we can fill that out. The proposed contract period is October 2021 to September 2022. Then under that, you'll want to have your signatures and date of your school district representative, and then your certification of your Indian Education Committee. This is your chairperson signature and date, and then we will complete that bottom half. Then on part 1, Service Location Privacy Act and Paper Reduction Act statement, those are just some things under the rulings. Section 1 here is student enrollment, the total combined school enrollment for the Indian education and non-Indian. So that's your total school enrollment. And then under there is your eligible Indians enrollment. So just your Native American students. The budget is based on the number of students at your school. The starting budget is based on the previous year's student count multiplied by 50. So this is under right under where your name and school district is under eligible student count and proposed budget. That starts out at $50 and student count is multiplied by 50. Once the school year's student count is done in October, and then we'll send that out in February. The new budget is the new count number multiplied by 60, which will send a budget revision letter, and then you will complete the budget revision. We'll go over that in a little bit. You will get a letter from our office for the award amount and revision amount. Let's see. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is the budget summary and the breakdown of your budget. There's the Oklahoma Cost Accounting Systems Code, which is the OCAS code all the way on the left. It's the category. We have the categories and the justification and dollar amounts column. Always write a description for the budget amounts. So Billy has laid out some examples here in the justification for the budget amounts. Just you want to make sure you're completing that. Please be sure all the amounts add to a correct total. So under proposed budget, each one of your dollar amounts need to add to the total at the bottom. If they do not add up, we will send that back and ask that you make those corrections. And then we have signatures at the bottom. Please make sure that you're having your chairperson and also the school administrator signing those documents. On the next page, page 5, we have the required assurances. This is from the federal regulations. We've covered at the bottom, you'll see where the IEC chairperson and school administrator initial agreeing to follow these guidelines. Okay, on page 6, we have the needs assessment priority list. At the top, you will write out how you carried out your needs assessment, how surveys were distributed, and how the IEC chose which programs to put on the application. Column 8 is a list of the needs parents wrote in the surveys in order. Don't list all the responses from the survey results, just whatever the IEC considers the most important. Column B is how many students are demonstrating the need. Column C are their other services addressing the need. Column D asking if there are other services, what is the funding source. Column E, how many students are served by this other source. Column F is asking if the funds from the other source are enough. Column G, will JOM funds be used to address this need? Column H is the number of students number of JOM students that are to be served. And the next page is the education plan for each of the programs. Each of the programs needs a goal, a measurable objective, and activity. So right here under education plan, under 1, we have program and student staffing highlighted as student incentives. So we'll go over that. And under number 2, we have educational goals. And here Billy has stated to provide rewards to JOM students in recognition of their accomplishments and achievements. Number 3 is measurable objectives. So here he has 50% of those JOM students will receive an incentive for academic performance and or school related accomplishments. Here under measurable objectives, we do ask that you have like a percentage or a ratio so that we can base this off in your annual needs assessment, your progress through the year. So just a little FYI right there. And so under activities, we have incentives will be awarded to honor roll students. Students will with perfect attendance. Books will be purchased for book fair attendees. Caps, gowns will be paid for 8th grade and 12th grade graduates. Under activities is kind of where we're going to look for a lot of spending. So if you have something that you're wanting to do for student incentives, you will want to put it in your activities. This way, whenever you listed it under your activities, we'll go back there, make sure you have it there for spending purposes for whenever you submit your expenditure claims. So moving on to the next slide. This is the IEC activity page. The box at the top is for the IEC name, title, and contract information. The number 1 is the description of how the IEC assisted in the planning and development of programs. The example here that Billy has is IEC reviews and or updates surveys annually, decides on methods of distribution of those surveys and return deadline date. The IEC reviews the survey, tallying results, and votes on which programs to use in the application. So that's a good response there. Describe the IEC's activities regarding implementation and operation of the programs proposed in this application. So here he has IEC makes recommendations based on information received from the JOM coordinator at the quarterly meetings. Number 3, you're going to want to describe the IEC's activities regarding monitoring, evaluations, and staff effectiveness for the program components in this application. So here he has the IEC reviews the progress reports of each program and are encouraged to offer suggestions. Number 4, does the contractor and IEC need training to increase the IEC effectiveness in carrying out their program's responsibilities? If so, describe the type of training needing and costs that may be incurred. Training is and the response here is training is always encouraged for both contractor and IEC's members by attending conferences, workshops, or by requesting in-house training by the Muscogee Nation Johnson O'Malley office. And then number 5, you want to list travel, meetings, and other expenses with itemized costs. So that could be if you travel to the National Johnson O'Malley or OJOM and you have extra expenses there or other conferences. So on the next page, we have the application checklist. This is for you to mark off what you have completed within the application, kind of like a checks and balances. And then you'll want to have your chairperson sign and also the Johnson O'Malley coordinator sign. So here we have the FY22 budget revision. I won't go through these each like I did with the application, but here we do have in the second section of the first page, you have the eligible student count, revised the budget amount. Those will be on a budget revision letter that we submit, but at any time you can do a budget revision letter even before you've gotten your new budget revision letter with your new student count and your new funding amount. So then the budget revision does look a lot like the application. The most difference that is the budget summary. There are 2 columns where you put the dollar amount. So we have the original, all the way on the right is the original budget and the revised budget. And the original budget, that's going to be the last budget that you submitted to our office. And in the revised budget, that is going to be your new budget that you're requesting. You may do a revision as often as needed, though it must be done at a meeting with the IC voting to approve or disapprove. Our office needs pages 1 and 2 with signatures. And this is an additional page, the education page. This is in case you're going to add a program for your existing programs. So that'll be just like your application under the education plan. You'll want to complete that just the same. Next, we have how to run a successful meeting. You have to have a Title VI meeting separate from your JOM meeting. The first thing is to make sure your meeting is legal. There are 2 things you must do to make it legal according to the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. That is filing the meeting with your county clerk office and post the agenda at the meeting site. Basically, you'll have 2 types of meetings, regular meetings and special meetings. Regular meetings are scheduled ahead of time and filed with the county clerk before or on December 15th. These are all your regular meetings for the year. Special meetings are any unforeseen meetings. You might have an emergency meeting, but those are for situations where there might be a financial loss, such as a penalty reduction in your budget. For emergency meetings, you do not need to file with your county clerk's office or post the agenda. You can email your county clerk the filing or fax or walk it in. Always ask for a stamped copy. For regular and special meetings, you must post the agenda at the meeting location 24 hours prior to the meeting. On number 2, you'll use your parliamentary procedures when conducting your meeting. This allows for fairness in voting. It allows the community to be heard and runs the meeting in an orderly fashion. So when you first start your meeting, make sure you have enough officers to conduct the meeting. Start on time and follow the agenda. Meetings should last probably around 30 to 45 minutes. The IEC should have already familiarized themselves with the agenda. The chairperson needs to go through meetings at a good pace. When you have public comments on your agenda, let them know it's a 2-minute limit. And do not get into a debate over the comments. Speak to them after the meeting. The motions you will be using are a main motion and a second motion. Only the IEC members can make motions, so you want to keep accurate minutes. Use a form to write your minutes down. It's a lot easier for the secretary to keep up with. Okay, so this is a script using parliamentary procedures. It sounds formal, but it really is not. Here, the chairperson will just follow the agenda and say, I call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. The chairperson will ask the secretary, may I get a roll call? Those present will answer here. Those absent will be noted in the minutes. The secretary will state if the quorum has been established. The chairperson will then follow the agenda and say, first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. If everyone has read the agenda, can I get a motion for approval? An officer will then make a motion. The chairperson will then ask, can I get a second motion to approve the agenda? An officer will then make a second motion. Let me go back. If there's no discussion to add to the agenda, the chairperson will ask, all those in favor to approve the agenda? The IC will then verbally say aye, or it could be by a show of hands. The chairperson will then ask all those opposed, and the IC will vote. The vote is pretty much going to be approved. The chairperson will announce motion carries to approve. The chairperson will go to the next business item, approval of the minutes, and say the same as before. If the minutes are not provided, you can table this until the next meeting, but it must get the motions. Also, if you need to correct the minutes, for example, if something was left out, this is where you make the correction. The chairperson will say, I need a motion to approve the minutes with the correction. An officer will make the motion to add whatever was left out, and then there's a second motion to approve, and you're done. Let's see. This goes on to the business items. When the secretary gets the reports of the approval or disapproval of the application, needs assessment, budget revision, or so on, he or she can turn it over to the JOM coordinator or the administrator and then they can briefly go over the report, the application or the budget revision, whatever it may be, so that those who aren't on the committee and in attendance will know what's going on. After the review, the chairperson will then ask for motions and continue to adjournment. Also, let it be known to everyone at the meeting, only IEC officers can make motions. Okay. Here is a copy of our minutes form. You can create your own to use this or use this one for, we have it loaded onto the Johnson O'Malley webpage on our tribal website. These are just this is kind of a simple layout for you to be able to use. Okay, now we're on to the election meeting. These meetings can be protested, so keep good documentation. This is the meeting we want proof that you advertised. So you'll want to make sure that you're posting those at the front of the meeting place, and also that what you posted on the meeting place, if you want to take a picture, send that to us. That works as advertisement. You'll want to have a sign-in sheet for parent signatures and the name of the children. Make sure you're going over that at the election meeting to make sure that your members to be are JOM parents. Use a JOM student roster to verify those parents. If a student is new to the school and not on the roster yet, verification can be done afterward. Only JOM parents will be on the ballot. Read the election procedures from your bylaws so that everyone knows how the election works. Remember that each bylaws are tailored specifically to your committee, so you'll want to go over those, review those, and make sure that you're holding your election meeting according to those bylaws. They need to know if it's an election to join the IEC or for specifically for a title like chairperson. You can do a separate election meeting or combine it with a regular meeting. If you combine it, do the election first, seat the officers by motions or votes, and then go to the other business items. Keep your election certificate accurate and completely filled out, especially the term ending dates. So on our website, you can find that election certificate. You're just going to want to make sure that you're doing it and completing that certificate in the term years according to your bylaws. So even years, odd years, it's going to say 2021, 2022. Just make sure that you're completing that accurately. So we're going to go on. I think I covered everything in the election meeting. Here is our monitoring check sheet. This is what we bring with us when we come to the school. Last year we weren't able to make it out due to the pandemic, but we did Zoom meetings with each of the schools. And this is kind of what we went over. So basically it's just a checklist of when you submitted your documents, like your application, bylaws, and revision. The school does not report directly to the BIE, the tribe does. This document, the documents you turn into us, we return to the BIE all at one time in a big report. This is why we stress the importance of submitting on time. The form is not a pass or fail type of thing. So this monitoring check sheet is not a pass or fail. It just is to discuss and suggest ways to meet your deadlines and program goals. We also offer up suggestions in any way that we can. Maybe we heard different things through other schools. Also, this gives us a good communication between our schools and knowing what's going on. This form does have to needs signatures, so a school representative, and you also want to make sure that someone from your ISC is attending these monitoring visits. We recommend the chairperson, but anyone that is available within the committee from the last year. So this is the 21, so it will be from this year, next year, is when we'll conduct the monitoring visit. So that concludes our parent training for today. If you have any questions, you can call our office. My personal office number is 918-732-7840. You may want to talk to your field specialist, which is Billy Proctor. And I wanted to give a special thanks to Billy Proctor because he set up this PowerPoint and the notes that I have went through with you. Also, thank you to the JOM manager, Regina Keith, and our administrative assistant, Terry Fish. I'm thankful for all of them. We work together as a team, and also our programs and our parents. I hope this was informative for you, and if there's anything that we can do for you, please just let us know.